everyone, you're very welcome to the third alumni panel series this trimester. Last week we had our digital marketing panel, and this week we're delighted to have two of our alumni with us to discuss careers in HR and also entrepreneurship. So if you're interested in setting up your own business. So my name is Michelle Cohen and I'm a career and skills consultant with the College of Arts and Humanities. And joining me is my colleague Sarah Brown, and Sarah is the career and skills consultant for the College of Social Sciences and Law. Sorry, Sarah. And our two panelists today, this afternoon, are Caolan Cullen, and Caolan completed his Bachelor of Social Science degree in 2015. And Caolan is the owner and founder of Artic Stone Ice Cream. So we're very much looking forward to hearing his career story from how he transitioned from his degree at UCD to his current role, his story of the, I suppose, roles in between that and the whole adventure of setting up his own business. And then also joining us is Sheena Breslin, and Sheena completed her BA in English and Ancient Roman Civilization in 2017. And Sheena is currently completing the graduate development program at People Services graduate program at Bank of Ireland, and she's currently working as a HR coordinator. Sheena also previously worked at the Department of Justice and Equality. So like Caolan, we're very much looking forward to hearing her career story and learning a little bit about her experience at UCD and her experience in her current role. So you're both very welcome. If you have any questions for our panelists, there's a Q&A box at the very bottom of the screen. So if you want to type in any of your questions there, my colleague Sarah will be managing the question box. And throughout the hour, we'll pop over to Sarah and check what the questions are. Okay, so over to our panelists. Sheena, I might start with you. And maybe if you want to tell us a little bit about why you picked that degree that you did, so your English and Ancient Roman Civilization, and tell us a little bit about your reflections on your time at UCD, were you involved in societies and things like that?
So hi, it's nice to see you, Caolan. Thank you so much for inviting me to come and speak today. So like you said, I started in UCD in 2014, straight after I finished my Leaving Cert, and I studied English and Ancient Roman Civilization. And so I think the reason that I chose both these subjects was I didn't really know what I wanted to do after I finished school. I did the Leaving Cert when I was 17, so I was quite young, and I just really hadn't a clue. And so I kind of just went with what I loved. I loved English. It was my favourite subject in school. And I was a really big book nerd. I still am. So I love reading. And so it just kind of seemed like a very natural fit for me to go into English. And I'd done Ancient Roman Civilizations, or classics as I call it. I'd done that in school, so I had an interest in ancient Greek mythology and architecture. And so again, it was just really an interest. I always wanted to do something that I like. And so that's what I did when I was in college. And I absolutely loved my time in UCD. It was a 3-year degree, and like I made so many friends that I'm still talking to today, and so many contacts, and I learned so much, not just in the classroom, in what we were doing, what I was studying, but also like joining societies. I was heavily involved in the Art Society and was joining all the events. And yeah, at the Windsurfing Society, I picked up a new skill and started windsurfing, and I was terrible at it. I still am terrible at it, but it was a bit of crack, and I made a lot of friends through that. So yeah, I really did love UCD. So thank you so much for bringing me back.
No problem, delighted to have you back. And Caolan, the same question to you, I suppose. How did you come to study social sciences at UCD, and just reflecting on your time in Newman as well?
Yeah, no, for me, again, same as herself there. I didn't know really what I wanted to do. And when I was in school, 5th and 6th year, people were like going into commerce or business and law or whatever. And I sat down with a guidance counselor, and he was just like, you aren't really business orientated and everything like that. So you've always wanted to help people out, and people was like what I've always wanted to do, from social work to just getting involved in the local community. So I thought social science then would be the best like basis to learn more about society, from social policy to sociology, and get into it from there, and then kind of discover afterwards what I wanted to do. So when I finished UCD, my main module was social work, which I've always wanted to do. And that's why I've incorporated a lot into my business as well. But to be part of the society, to help people out as much as I physically could, for me anyway, that's what motivated me to do social science. I also did a bit of HR as well. So just to give a bit of a background of like business and how to work with staff, how to work with clients, all that kind of stuff. And then for me, I loved UCD. Had a great time. I represented UCD in soccer. So I played for UCD for 4 years. Even after I left UCD, I still played for the UCD football team. I was named player of the season, player of UCD, like college player of the year, on my final year of college, which was the bet, like, which was incredible. So to leave with a degree and as college player of the year was it was a great year. But I learned so much from the sports teams, the societies, to different diverse backgrounds in social science as well. People from all walks of life in social science, because a lot of it is to do with like society and people that want to help out. So it's great to meet people like that. But yeah, playing for UCD, winning, we won a fair whack of trophies at UCD, playing Trinity, playing UL, going around the country representing UCD was a massive honor for me. And it's still something that's on my wall in my room to this day, is my degree and my history of playing with UCD as well. So it's something I look back on very fondly. So it did help a lot.
Brilliant. And if I stay with you for a moment, Caolan, had you a business idea in your mind, like when you were in UCD? Was it something you were thinking, I'd love to set up my own business, or did that come later?
There's always, since I was 12, 13, I've had this, you'd kind of call idea book, where you write down like literally every idea that comes into your head. Doesn't matter, Jesus, there's some absolute stinkers in there, and then there's some other ones, but I was like, what was I thinking? But no, like different business ideas. I've always like, I would buy stuff in school and then sell it, like protein powders or gym equipment, all that kind of stuff. I used to be a sales rep for tickets and stuff like that. So I'd always be trying to learn as much about like business or even starting a business. So during college, I was always working. I was working with startups from food mainly, because like food is my favorite thing. Like that and sports and fitness would be my favorite thing. But I've always wanted to sit, like I'd always walk into a restaurant and be like, what would I do differently with this place? Or when I was working with food startups, I was just learning so much from that. So I always wanted to set up a food business of some sort, from a food truck to a food stall to anything really. Because the reactions you get from people with food is just like no other. You know, food will change your mind, like will change your mood instantly. You know, you could be extremely hangry, let's say, and angry at the world, that you give someone food and then like all your cares go. So I think food helps like transcend past that. So I've always been fascinated by the impact of food on people. And then so during college, working with food startups, and then afterwards I was like, right, well, if I don't start something to do with food or even anything, then like I might get distracted and might come away from it, and then I'd have a regret not doing it. So when it comes to food, it wasn't necessarily ice cream, let's say. It could have been anything. I've had since then 20 different business ideas that aren't ice cream orientated. But when I was a kid, after every match, football wise, I'd have like a pint of Ben and Jerry's or Häagen-Dazs or something like that. So it was very much ingrained in my childhood. So, and Irish people have a massive nostalgia thing with ice cream as well. It's not just me, but we have this nostalgic link to like our better times or childhood. And when you're celebrating, you're having ice cream. If you're upset, you're having ice cream. So I was like, okay, I think there's something here, you know. So
very good. No, that's interesting to hear. And Sheena, when you got to like May, your final exams in your final year, did you have a sense of what you wanted to do, or did you just start applying for jobs then?
No, so I didn't. I remember so very vividly my final exams and my final essays. I didn't know. I loved college, I loved English, and I loved classics, but I was very much like, I was very sure that I wasn't going to go into teaching, which is what a lot of people have kind of expected I would do, because that's just very linked to arts, I think. And I knew I didn't want to do teaching, didn't know what else I wanted to do yet. So I actually just planned on traveling. I saved up a bit of money, and as soon as I graduated, I just hopped on a flight, packed a backpack, and just went traveling for a couple of months. The only reason I came home was actually just to graduate. So I was bopping around East Asia for a few months and loved it. And then when I came home and graduated, I got a job in my local super value, very much just kind of have a job at the time and just kind of get an idea into what I wanted to do. You know, I didn't have a whole lot of pressure on myself. Like I was 21, I didn't know what I wanted to do yet, and I had so much time to figure it out. So I was working in my local super value up in the cash office, so I was dealing with all the cash that was running through the shop. And that was very much like an isolated role. I was in one room alone, there was no windows, and I was counting all the money and I was managing all the money that was entering the shop. And the one thing I learned from that is it's not the kind of job I want. I'm a people person, I want to be with people. So like even just doing jobs that you don't know, you have to experience things to know what you like and what you don't like. So yeah, after 9 months there, I handed my notice again and just went off traveling again. So went off to Bali then this time and a few of the places around East Asia. And that's when I got the job in the Department of Justice. So I applied online for that, for the competition for that, and was in justice for a year and a half before I started my current role.
Very good. And tell us a little bit about that, the Department of Justice, just what a typical day, what your duties were, because I think often it's a role that a lot of arts and humanities, social science students are interested in, that the whole public sector. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to work there?
It was absolutely fantastic. I loved it so much when I was there. I think maybe people don't know enough about how to actually apply for like public service roles. So the public service do it a bit differently to the private service. They would hold competitions. So it's where you just go onto the website, so publicjobs.ie. You go onto the website and they'll post the job listings that they have, and you click apply, and you have to fill out your CV. So you don't just upload a CV, you have to fill out all the questions in each part, and it just means that everyone's CV looks the same. And so when I applied for that, and then they do interviews, and before the interview they do a round where you have to do like an online assessment. So it'll be a verbal assessment or maths assessment or both. And if you meet the criteria for that, then you get through to the interview stage, and then you might get an offer. So that's how the whole like recruitment stage of it works. So I was in there for a year and a half. I was working in immigration for a team called the IIP. So that was Immigrant Investor Unit. So I was dealing with outside money from mainly China, but other like EEA, non-EEA countries were investing money in Ireland, and they were able to get visas because of this. So absolutely loved my time there. I learned so much about like everything to do with an office environment. I'd never really been in an office environment before. So learning how to use a printer and all that jazz was it was great. I really loved it.
Very good. And I see Caolan's just rejoining, so I might stay with you for another.
Yeah, sorry about that.
You're okay. Take your time. No, you're okay. Sheena's just telling us a little bit about her role in Department of Justice, which is really interesting because, as I mentioned, it's an area of interest for our students. But Sheena, you mentioned something as well that I thought it was really interesting. You said you didn't put yourself under too much pressure. So after you graduated, you weren't sure what you wanted to do. And it sounds like you gave yourself some space to figure things out without kind of panicking and kind of rushing into a graduate role. And that seems to have stood to you because you got to figure out what you enjoyed, what you didn't, and you got to explore opportunities. So it's even useful for current students to hear that's okay to do that, and it's actually a useful. You found it useful. Okay, well, Caolan, are you okay there?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm on hotspot now. I've changed over from my internet to hotspot there.
Okay, perfect. Well, Sheena's been just taking us through up to her current role, and we're going to explore that in a moment. But just the same question, I suppose, to you. You were final year. It was May exams, probably in the RDS, and you were finishing up your time in UCD. What was your next steps after that?
Well, actually, the same as Sheena. As soon as I finished, I was working in a bar for 2 months, and then, as I think a lot of people do, go find themselves out in Southeast Asia, somewhere in Vietnam or Thailand or Cambodia, traveling with just yourself and a backpack. So just going around, seeing the sights, immersing yourself in the culture, and that's probably, for me, that's one of the best things I've ever done, was to get out there, because it kind of takes you away from your normality, let's say, but that's actually where I came across the idea of what I do, because what I do is a street food technique in Thailand. So
Yeah.
that's what sparked the idea. But then I stayed longer in Thailand to learn how to do it with the people in Asia. But so I didn't really know what I wanted to do, from going into a career, from going on to do a master's. There are multiple aspects of it, but I just thought if I didn't start something now, I probably would just keep putting it on the long finger. And I was like, there's no better time to do it than the present, really, So kind of became obsessed with it and got very passionate about it, and came back from Asia in September, roughly started working in a bar at nighttime, like a hotel bar, doing weddings and all sorts till 6 a.m. It was awful, but saving up money to put into the business. And then then I left the job in like April 2016, and then started the business, fully launched it in May 2016. So
Okay, very good,
yeah.
very good. So if we stay with you for a moment, do you mentioned you were learning a little bit about the idea in Thailand and stuff. Do you want to tell us a little bit about just that whole launching? Well, first of all, tell us a little bit about the business, what it is, because like our audience mightn't be familiar with it at all.
Okay, so Artic Stone is Ireland's first and multi-award-winning hand-rolled ice cream company. And what we do is we specialized in handcrafted and made-to-order frozen ice cream or desserts, whichever way you want it. And we design the flavor, texture, taste, whatever around whatever you want. So from if you have a nut allergy, or you're lactose intolerant, or you're gluten or a celiac, whatever tastes, we can make it within about 60 seconds. And that's what we've developed the business around, is what our customers' taste dictates. But yeah, so that's what the business is. So now we've gone into supplying restaurants and catering and kitchens and stuff like that. So when I launched the business, it's probably the scariest thing I've ever had to do. But again, if you don't do the things that scare you, like, there's not really much point. So I had to just throw myself into it as much as possible. And if it doesn't go well, it doesn't go well. You gave it a shot. But, I had to give it a shot, because I'd always live with it, thinking about it, rather than actually doing, like, oh, why didn't I set up that ice cream thing? Or why didn't I do something about it? And then in May I did a soft launch in my sister's small cafe with friends and family. And the reaction just blew me away, because we were working with some of the best local suppliers, local like dairy producers, local vegan producers, everything. And I really wanted to make it a product that sustains the time, not just catches people's eyes. Yes, it catches people's eyes, the technique, but people buy something from you once, but they won't do it twice, unless they like the taste, the experience, and what they're buying off you. So I learned a lot that night, that people really enjoyed the product, and it didn't matter if I gave it to them in a blind taste test. It didn't matter if they could see it, they'd enjoy it. And that's why I wanted to wrap it around. And then here we are, almost 5 years later. So still selling ice cream in the snow,
Very good. And you've been nominated for a few awards. You were the Rising Entrepreneur. Was that in 2016, 2017?
Yeah, so in 2018, I was named the Rising Star of the food industry, which was pretty cool. Didn't expect that at all. Yeah. It was a big ceremony with the All-Star Awards, and there's massive companies there and massive food producers. And then I was named just Young Food Rising Food Star of the Year of 2018. And then in 2016 was named Young Entrepreneur of the Year. And then last year in 2019, I was named Young Entrepreneur again, which was awesome. You get to meet some incredible people that are doing all walks of life, from, let's say, from food products to science to tech to pharma. You meet all these people, and it's an incredible vibe. Named third best food startup in Ireland there last year, against some absolutely incredible brands, and we beat some of them to the punch as well, like, which you see some of the most popular brands, like I'm a big fan of the likes of Strong Roots and stuff like that. They'd be there, and you see them all over the place, and you forget sometimes that they are Irish because they are so big, and then to be in line with them is an incredible, it's it's a nice feeling, you know. So
Yeah.
yeah, we've done a bit now. We were named Food Innovators of the Year of 2018 as well. So from what we do as well. So
Brilliant. Congratulations, because it takes a lot of hard work and perseverance to set up your own business and, you know, maintain it over the past few years. So, and it's great to get that kind of recognition. So congratulations.
you're very good, thanks.
So I'm going to go back to you, Sheena, but Caolan, 2 questions for you to ponder while I'm talking to Sheena, just about.
Alrighty.
Oh, can you hear me okay? Yeah.
Yeah, go for it, Jaya.
2 questions for you to ponder while we're talking to Sheena, just entrepreneurs that have inspired you, and also then a little bit about your own personal branding. Like, how do you, like, what does that mean to you? How do you go about, I suppose, personal branding? Like, so, like, for example, a lot of those awards, like they're a huge asset to your whole brand. So we'll come back to you on those 2 in a moment. So Sheena.
Alrighty.
Sheena, for you tell us a little bit then about your transition from Department of Justice to the graduate program in Bank of Ireland.
Yeah, so I started in the Bank of Ireland graduate program February of last year, so February 2020. And yeah, so I've been there exactly a year today. Actually, the 10th of February last year was my first day in Bank of Ireland. So yeah, and so it's a rotational graduate program. So I'm supposed to be on 3 different rotations over a 2-year period. That's the structure of the graduate program. And so my first rotation, I was working in recruitment. Absolutely loved it so much. I was supporting on like pre-employment screening for anyone who would be joining the bank, and I was helping with recruitment for the graduate program. I was helping with recruitment for all different levels, mainly technology as well, and just I learned a lot about like job specs, applying for jobs, CVs. So it was a really, really good experience for me. And then, so I moved in October into my current role. So I'm working in the People Advice and Guidance team now. So what that is kind of offering support and guidance to the colleagues within the bank. Bank of Ireland has over 10,000 employees. So there's a lot of emails and phone calls coming through on a daily basis where we support on things like salaries and pensions and COVID-19 queries. You know, there's a lot that comes up. We kind of get a mix of everything. But now I'm loving it now. So I have another year left of my program, and so I'll be rolling off into my final rotation in June sometime. And so I kind of have to have a bit of a think about where I'd like to go, and hopefully we'll get my final placement, and from there we'll see what happens after.
Brilliant, very good. So we'll come back to your kind of the day-to-day, what you're enjoying about the role in a moment. Caolan, to come back to you, an entrepreneur that has inspired you, who do you look up to in your field?
So that's a tricky one, because when it comes to my field, it's kind of more some like a lot of people. So it would be, you can find inspiration from the local butcher who has set up a business to opening then 10 butchers, or anyone really. That's the way I look at it. So you can't, if you put everyone on a pedestal, you know, like I think you should see different aspects of what you draw inspiration from different characters, from mentors to teachers to people you meet, anyone really. So to put a single entrepreneur, it's very dramatic.
No,
yeah, I get that a lot.
Diplomatic.
Oh, diplomatic, I know, right? Or dramatic as well, I suppose. But yeah, no, like I can't really pinpoint one particular person. The likes of like Bobby Kerr and stuff like that, who've done a lot for insomnia. But I think there are the local entrepreneurs who don't have massive aspirations to be in every single shop in the country, but they're still doing an incredible job for themselves. You know what I mean? They're still hitting their potential of who they are. And like, they're just happy with what they're doing. They don't have massive ambitions. That's not to say there's anything wrong with it. It's just you take inspiration from everyone really, that are happy with what they're doing. And that's the way I'd look at it. So I don't really like to put people on too high a pedestal, you know, because then if they ever do something wrong, you're like, you know, I think you just draw inspiration from their success in ways, and local successes as well.
Very good. And then in terms of, I imagine like when you set up a small business and maybe you're the founder, the owner, like personal branding is really, really important, isn't it? Can you, I suppose, for anyone who's kind of maybe tuning in and they have a business idea as well. But can you tell me a little bit about what personal branding means to you?
Yeah, I'm very much getting into that in the last year to year and a half. It wasn't something when I first started, it was a business, and then there was Caolan. It wasn't intertwined, and sometimes you need to separate yourself from that, because if you get too intertwined, you lose your own identity. So when it comes to my own personality, I want that to shine through all the products we do. I don't want I'd rather a customer not pay for something and have a good experience than the other way around. You know what I mean? And that's just the way I want to give people. I want to give people the best experience that they can and transcend over to them what the passion for it that I have. And that's why our customers, I believe, come back to us in the snow, rain, hail, whatever, is because they enjoy the experience, because you enjoy it. And you want them to feel good because you feel good, and vice versa. So when it comes to personal branding, I try not to be. So some entrepreneurs take it a different route. They might go controversial and be tongue in cheek. Let's say like Michael O'Leary, let's say, with Ryanair, that's his personal brand of, I wouldn't say arrogance, but strong confidence, but I wouldn't really be about that. I'd be more about helping people out and creating a business around people rather than a product necessarily, because people buy from you as well. So they want to buy into your story. They want to buy into why you do it. They don't want to just be, see you later, good luck. They want to be part of what you're trying to create.
Yeah. It sounds like your
image branding that I'd go for.
Yeah, it sounds like it's quite linked to your own kind of values, your own personal values around customer,
And that's why I won Young Entrepreneur of the Year last year, is because it wasn't because I had the best business. There's no, you had IT and tech companies revenuing tens of millions that I was against, but we won because they were like, the main reason why we're giving you the award this year is because of your principles and the kind of focus that you put on your customers rather than anything else. And if you stick to your principles when it comes to business, that gets through you all the tough times. So when things do go sideways, during a pandemic, you can come out the other side because you stick to your principles, and it's not just necessarily about the money. It's about bringing value to the person that is buying your product and giving them a good vibe, and that's the way I look at it. But some people do it differently, obviously, but it's different strokes, So.
Well, it's what works for you and what feels like true to you and right to you. So it's very inspirational, it sounds, and it's obviously working well so far. It's winning awards anyway.
It's still something anyway.
Yeah. And Sheena, I suppose a little bit about kind of your day-to-day role now. You obviously in COVID, you were saying like it's very, very busy, and I presume you're working from home. You've adapted over the last few months to working from home. Can you tell us a little bit about what you enjoy and what's challenging about your current role?
So I've been working from home since March of last year. And I definitely would say that is a very big challenge for me. I really do miss socializing and the social aspect of work. So, coming in the morning and having that 5-minute chat with the person sitting next to you, and, going out for coffee and lunch, all that's just kind of gone, which is very difficult. So we're left with Zoom, and we're left with having Zoom coffees and Zoom drinks. That's definitely a challenge, but I think as long as everyone just kind of keeps going with it, so as long as you kind of make the effort to reach out to people and just check in with people and see how they're getting on, it's not the worst thing in the world to be having. I still love my job. And so, sorry, what was your question again? Could you remind me, what was it?
No, and it was just, I suppose that's what you find challenging, and that's very useful. And then I suppose the aspects that you really, really enjoy.
Okay. Yeah, well, I suppose goes back to being a people person. My job is supporting people every day. It's people services is the name of the program. That's what HR has kind of been called now, is people services. So I work on a phone line for 9 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening every day, and we have an email, and basically all we do is get queries in all day from colleagues in the bank about anything under the sun. They really just come to us with it. And so in some cases it could be a really urgent situation where a line manager is really worried about their direct report. You know, it could be a mental health thing, it could be like anything like sickness, whatever it is, they come to us for support, and we're that kind of like calm before the storm. We're able to just like give a bit of advice on exactly what they should be doing now. And I think that's really, really important for people, especially with COVID. Joe, like I deal with COVID queries on a daily basis, like how the business advises their staff to handle COVID. So we have a lot of branches open at the moment. So we have first line workers who are going into work every day, and like the struggles that come with that, you know, as well. Like if one person knows of someone who has COVID, or like a customer comes in or something, you know, so there's a lot around that. But I think just being that person that's able to kind of have a clear head and like offer a piece of advice that will just like help someone else through their day is really like really rewarding, I find.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like it's really, really busy as well. Like a lot of queries, like if there's nearly 10,000 staff in the organization, it's a high volume, I imagine. There wouldn't be much downtime.
Yeah, it is. It's very busy. It's quite different to my previous role, I would say that now. Like I think I did see a bit of a difference between the public service and the private sector, I think. And for me, like that was an improvement. I kind of like keeping busy. So I really enjoy just having stuff to do all the time. I don't really like being bored. So for me, it's been improvement.
Brilliant. Very good. Thank you both. I'll check in with Sarah to see if there's any burning questions coming through.
Yeah, we've got a good few questions here. So I think maybe we'll go to Caolan first. So we've got a question from Tim. He's saying that lots of people don't start businesses because they're worried about their ideas not being original. So I know you'd mentioned that you have an ideas book and you jot down all of your questions, and you'd also suggested just, you know, not to regret anything and just to kind of go for it. So Tim is wondering, how do you kind of face these different struggles that you might have when you're thinking about different ideas? And what did you feel you could bring that was kind of unique to the food sector as well? So kind of two aspects to that question.
It's a great question as well. It's a very in-depth question. So when it comes to the originality, I think everyone's original. So, you know, like no two people are the exact same. So when it comes to original idea, yeah, like everyone, I'm like one of the best pieces of advice that I was told when I met up with one of the restaurateurs when I was describing the business, he was like, Caolan, if you don't start this today, or if you don't follow this through, 6 other people are going to do it. And people will, from one, copy your idea. People will do the exact same thing as you. They will get into, for me, ice cream. Like people do that. Like ice cream I didn't invent the wheel. You know, you're not, when you start a business, you're not trying to invent the wheel. Some people are pure out inventors, and fair play to them. But if you can put your own spin on it, it's about execution. It's not necessarily how original you are. It's about the execution and the product that you do. And if you have the passion for it, and then you execute it well with a good plan, don't get me wrong, if you start a business, you're going to have to sacrifice, and you're going to have to put a lot of stuff on hold. You're going to have to put discipline. It has to be, for me, discipline is the most important thing. And it's not necessarily work rate. You will have to work your ass off. Don't get me wrong, but the work rate is worth it, but it's the discipline. So the people who are the most disciplined, who execute it the best, will be the best when it comes to the product. So that would be my take on it. Like, your idea is not original, and I'm sorry to burst the bubble. No idea is original, like, but it's the execution and the vibe that you give off yourself and putting yourself into the product that is the original part. And I've completely forgotten the second part of it. What was the other part of it?
So it was about what you've kind of done within the food sector that's kind of unique. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm incredibly passionate about people. That's why I did social science. I wanted to help out people. I wanted to do good in society as much as I physically could and leave my mark on. I've always said I wanted to leave the world in a better place than when I came into it. That's my motto for everything I do. I want to leave it better than when I came in. And that's why I went into social science, and that's why it's written on my wall, you know, and that's the thing, that's the motto I stick by. So when it comes to doing something different and putting my own stamp on it, it's from doing stuff in the local charities. It's from like a lot of self-worth, let's say, comes from helping out other people rather than helping out yourself. So if you can push your brand or your product into helping other people, that's even better. You know, you can sell a product, that's grand, but then you're just a salesman, you know, or, you know, that's all you are. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But what I mean is, if that's not what you want to do, then that's not what you want to do. You want to make a difference in people's lives. And that's why I believe we have had our successes. And that's why we've stuck to our principles. You lay out what your principles are and try not deter away from that. Because if you do deter away from it, then, you know, then your business will fall apart when the times do get tough. So that would be my advice when it comes to that. Put your own stamp on it, put your own personality in the product as much as you can, and then just be sound. You know, don't be a dick. As the Mary thing, I think there's a paraphrase or parable of Mary. It's like basically translated as "don't be a dick." You know, just be sound. That's what we say in Ireland. You know, that's the way I'd look at it.
And would you have any like tips for someone that's got these different kind of ideas, but maybe it's the confidence? Like, did you kind of feel that you've had this kind of confidence to be quite entrepreneurial, or is that something that you've built up? And have you got any kind of tips that you could offer to the students?
Yeah, well, like the only thing that stands in front of yourself and what you want to do is yourself. So once you get past that barrier of your own self, then you gain the confidence. I gained a lot of confidence from sports. So I was captain of pretty much most teams that I was on, because I wanted to pull whenever a teammate was down, I'd pull them up. And sometimes I might do it aggressively, but you know, it is what it is. But when it comes to, oh, geez, I've completely forgotten. What was the question? Jesus, it fell out of my head there. Sorry, say it again.
So,
sorry.
The confidence thing. Not necessarily. It's just doing things out of your comfort zone build confidence. That's simple. You're never going to grow confidence in yourself if you don't do something you don't know. And if you're afraid of something, if you're afraid of flying, I am afraid of flying. Don't get me wrong. I'm terrified of flying. It's my biggest fear, but I jumped out of a plane. You know, you do these things that you're afraid of, and that builds confidence. You don't build confidence from sitting around doing something you're not. If you're capable of something, you're not going to grow confidence in it. You grow confidence from the things you're not good at and that you are afraid of. And that would be my advice, is if you're afraid of it, just do it. The only person that's stopping you from doing what you want to do is yourself.
Very good. Perfect. Some good tips there. Thanks very much. So Sheena, we've got a few questions for you, so we might move over and pick your brain now. So we've got a few questions that are about the grad program that you're currently on. So someone is wondering what the kind of entry requirements are and what the kind of skills you need to demonstrate if someone was looking to apply to the Bank of Ireland graduate program.
So I would say the minimum requirements, there aren't many. It's mainly just to have a degree, because it's a graduate program. So you have to have a minimum of a 2-1 in 2-1 for your degree, your undergraduate level 8 degree, I think it is. Yeah, your undergraduate degree. Anyway, and that's essentially the only minimum requirement to apply. So what will happen is, when you do apply for the graduate program, you apply online, and what they'll do, it's kind of similar to the public service, how you apply, and you find this in a lot of jobs when you're applying as a grad. They'll have the online assessment, so it'll be a verbal assessment and there'll be a maths assessment as well. And so you'll do that, and then if you do well in that and you meet a certain criteria, you'll be brought through to another round where you might have to send in a video of yourself. I'm not sure if they're keeping that. They had that when I was joining, but they may have taken that out now. I'm not 100% sure. And then if you get through that round, the final round would then be the interview, and you might have to be brought back for a second interview. In terms of like skills that you need, like, I think you get so many skills from college. I think sometimes when you're in college, you don't really realize the skills that you're building. So I would really like talk about your degree, because your degree has given you so much in terms of skills. You've been on teams, you've had to do teamwork and team projects, and like that's a skill that is so sought after and so central to doing anything in the business world. I think like you don't do anything on your own. You're working in a team always, and you're working towards an end goal. So even like making notes when you're on a team meeting, that's like taking minutes, Joe, and like having actions and goals, what you want it done for the next week and how that's going to get done, who's going to do it, like stuff like that. That's what you do every day in meetings in like my job anyway. So like you gain so many skills from your degree, even like research skills, that like writing skills, you know, writing essays, like even just innovation, like having a certain way of thinking. College really encourages you to think on your own, think outside the box, think of things that no one else would think of. And like that's exactly what organizations are looking for as well. They're looking for people who think a little bit differently and can offer something new for their organization.
Very good advice. I think we often feel that students are developing lots of different skills, but they don't always necessarily know how to name those skills or what those skills are, relating it to graduate recruitment processes. We've got a kind of question about skills again, but it's on the flip side. Are there any particular skills that you think would be important working in an office environment that someone from an arts and humanities background wouldn't necessarily have gained during their degree? So quite specific there.
Yeah, I'm trying to think now. So I know when I was in transition year in secondary school, I did an ECDL course, which is European driver's license. So it's a very basic like computer course where they teach you the basics of Excel and like Word and PowerPoint. So maybe I'd say sorry, my camera turned off there. Maybe I'd say if you haven't had some sort of like a course in like IT and you wouldn't be like hugely comfortable working with computers, like that's an area I'd maybe suggest learning a bit more about. Every job I've had since I've been in college has been, I have had to use Excel quite frequently, and you know, things like macros and stuff like that I would have to use on a daily basis. It's just something you have to do at some stage, like with reports. No matter what you're in, you're going to have to track something or do something. So if you wouldn't be that comfortable with Excel, that's probably my advice would be to maybe get a bit more brush up on that or find out a bit more about that.
Very good. And there's lots of kind of courses online now, LinkedIn Learning and all different things like that. So lots of opportunities there. We've got another one actually in the chat for you, Sheena. So the question is, did you find it hard or did you find it difficult going into HR without a business degree? And also, have you got any tips about the verbal and numerical reasoning assessments that you'd mentioned?
So the first part of that, did I find it difficult not having a business degree? Nope, not at all. Like I think part of that was maybe because I didn't go straight into the graduate program from college. I'm not sure. I had some work experience in an office and in like different environments. So yeah, like I didn't really feel like I was at a disadvantage at all. I think like no, they want a diverse group of people. They don't want everyone from a business background, you know, because they all kind of think the same, you know. We want people that think differently and have different ideas, different experiences. And so I don't think for a second that like what your degree is will define whether or not like you're suited for the role. I think it's much more down to your passion and your drive and like how much you want to learn, your willingness to learn. And I'm sorry, I'm forgetting what's the second part of that
question. That's okay. It's difficult when it's two questions. I know. Some advice about the verbal and numerical reasoning test. So did you do like lots of practices in advance, or is there anything that you would recommend to kind of get prepared and ready?
Yeah, so I actually just went online and I Googled them. If you type in verbal assessment, verbal testing, practice verbal reasoning assessment, any version of that, and same for maths, just 1,000,001 links come up and you click into them. Now it takes time and it can be really annoying. It can be like it takes a lot of time to do, so it can be annoying to do sometimes. But if you're really serious and you really do feel like you want some practice, I definitely would just like literally type into Google, search, and click into a few of them. I know for verbal reasoning, I think maybe because I'm such a reader, I always kind of tend to look up new words that I find that I didn't know before, just from habit from school, really. So I would say as well, like if you see a word that you don't know when you're doing them, like write them down and maybe look it up so you just know yourself. So that would be my big advice on that. It's there's practice out there, just you just have to find it, really.
And just to plug the Careers Network, we have loads of practice things as well on profiling for success, so feel free to avail of those. There's maybe one more question and then I'll hand back. That's all right, Michelle. So it's another one for Sheena. We're not letting any let up at this moment now, but it's somebody who's kind of asking if someone had like a disability or a kind of a learning issue or something along those lines. Do you think that this would? Do you think that they should disclose this in the application process?
So that's a really great question. I'm very happy that someone asked something on this. Absolutely, like 100%, like Bank of Ireland is a equals opportunity employer, but they're also really disability smart. And I would really encourage anyone with any form of a disability to apply regardless of that. You can apply normally to a graduate program or just any job really in Bank of Ireland. And you can always like disclose that you have a disability, and you should, because we offer reasonable accommodations at every stage of the recruitment process. So I really would encourage that, because like they will absolutely be more than happy to accommodate that for you. I would also just say on that, we're also partnered with another company called Ahead, and Ahead is a company that helps support students and colleagues with disability, and they help them get jobs in the workplace. And Ahead actually have got a sort of deal with Bank of Ireland where they do a graduate program through the Ahead WAM program. So Ahead will help support someone with a disability in applying for a job with Bank of Ireland. And so I would just also recommend having a look on Ahead, because they're a really, really great platform for anyone with a disability. And they don't just deal with Bank of Ireland, they help with jobs for anything all around the country. And so they also have job listings. So I would really advise anyone to check them out, because they're lovely, they're great. Good
tips. Thanks very much. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thanks, Sarah. So I'm just conscious of time. So, Caolan, a question for you. What, I suppose, advice in terms of maybe resources or what you find useful just at the initial stages of setting up a business? So, I mean, I know, say, there's UCD Nova, there's an entrepreneur in residence in UCD Smurfit. I suppose there's Enterprise Ireland, the Startup Ireland, things like that. Is there kind of particular resource that you found useful when you were kind of going about setting up in the early stages, setting up your business?
Yeah, well, for me, one of the best resources was just reading up of different entrepreneurs and stuff like that, just to get the kind of mind going and that put it in that kind of field. But when it comes to agencies and bodies, Young Entrepreneur of the Year, which is the IBYE, is very has completely changed the way I view things. From I wouldn't have been able to talk in front of everybody here. I wouldn't have been able to I would have been a very weak public speaker. But after that, you'd stand up in front of 500 people and it's no bother to you. You know, now you still get scared, but you know, you just got to do it. But when it comes to that, if you're starting a business, the local enterprise offices are very helpful. They have mentors and stuff like that. They have accountants who are just, you can give like €10 to, and they help you out and just put you on the right path. If your finances, well, for me, finances is like the thing I'm worst at in the world. Excel, finances, don't understand it, goes straight over my head. So like for them to do give me a bit of mentorship and a bit of idea how it works was very handy. So your local enterprise office. Then one of my biggest actually regrets was not being part of the UCD Entrepreneur Society. Looking back at my time there, I should have. I would have loved it, and I never did. I don't know why. I just never joined it. But if you are thinking about starting an idea, jump into it head first. You might as well. You might know something. You might find your business partner. You might find anything. You never know. So doing things like that and joining the societies that are around entrepreneurship, and then again, local enterprise offices, they are very helpful. And then they give you funding as well. So like new startup grants, we've gotten a fair whack of money from government grants for winning things. And then we won the Going Green Award in Dunleary this year. We got money for that, you know? So yeah, they have a fair whack of like grants to give out if you are starting a business, and then online trading vouchers and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, local enterprise or societies in the likes of UCD.
Brilliant. That's really great. Very, very useful resources there. So thank you for sharing those.
No matter.
And Sheena, I suppose for you, I mean, clearly we know from the questions, well, from questions to both of you, that there's an interest in both your areas. But for you, what advice would you have any particular hints or tips that you would give to an arts and humanities or a social science student now who's really interested in HR and they're maybe just not sure how to kind of break into that?
Okay, yeah, I'd say don't put too much pressure on yourself. That's the first piece of advice I just give anyone coming out of college who's going through final year at the moment. Just don't put so much pressure on yourself. You know, you're young, you've so much time to figure it out, and like half the fun is just making the mistakes and figuring out what you don't like and what you do like. So if you're having an interest in HR, first of all, well done. It's a great place to go. So totally like encourage people to get involved in it. I think just apply, you know, just like do the research and apply, like look on jobs.ie, look on LinkedIn. LinkedIn have an option where you can click to see jobs in your area in the field that you're looking for, so you can put it in so it's specifically for HR in grad roles, whatever it is. I know September is the time that you would be applying for grad programs, so just make sure your CV is up to date at that stage. Your CV is definitely really important, and I can't stress this enough. Like, it's the first thing an employer is going to see. It's their first impression of you. So I would really encourage people to look over their own CV, ask their parents to do it, ask your grandparents to do it, ask anyone you know who's working to have a look at it and just give you advice on it. Like, spelling mistakes just can't be happening on a CV, like, at all. And then if you see a specific job that you like Bank of Ireland, if you see the job spec online for it, like, job specs are all different. So like, take time to actually study a job spec, see what the criteria is for that. So they tend to have competencies, things that like the business values the most. Like Bank of Ireland, it's agile and customer focused, and think about that and like try and implement that into your CV. So say how you would have learned skills that would reflect this, you know, why are you that perfect person for the job, and reflect that in your CV and in your cover letter, because like it's the first thing the employer will see and it'll really stand to you. So I think that's most of my advice there, I think.
That's loads of brilliant advice you've shared there. Thank you. There was a question popped up.
Sheena, it's just someone's wondering, is it really necessary to get a master's in HR if someone's looking to go into HR? What would be your thoughts on doing postgrad study?
No, so it's not essential. I don't have one myself, so all I have is my undergrad, but I'm actually studying to get my CIPD qualification at the moment. So CIPD is the accreditation for anyone who wants to register as a HR professional in Ireland. It's not essential, but I do think like it'll stand to you to have it. It just gives you a lot more skills on how to deal with like difficult situations. And when you become a CIPD accredited professional, you're able to go onto the website and you're able to get a lot more support from them. So I wouldn't say it's essential, especially not for grads. Like, I didn't get one going in, but I think like I want to progress in my career in HR at some stage. So I think it'll kind of stand to you to have that qualification.
Brilliant. Great, that makes sense. And I think you mentioned briefly that it's recommended to kind of have a 2-1 for applying for graduate programs. Just someone had just dropped a question into the box there, but it's generally.
So I'm not sure if for all graduate programs it could be different. So I would like look at the job spec for each of them. I know for Bank of Ireland, you do need to have a 2-1, but that could be different for different programs.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, no, the majority look for 2-1. So that's hopefully, Brendan, that has answered your question. So I know some of our audience might have to jump off and join another Zoom lecture because everyone's on lectures at the moment. So Sheena, just to say to you, thank you so much. You shared brilliant advice and tips, and I think there's a huge interest in HR recruitment, that space in arts and humanities and social sciences. So I think very interesting to hear you've navigated a very successful career to date to get into HR, and you didn't necessarily study the subject. So I think that is really interesting to hear. So thank you very much and I know you're really busy, so thank you for sharing your time. And then Caolan, I suppose, thank you also for sharing all the great tips about setting up a business and just, I suppose, those insights into, I suppose, having a business idea and having the confidence to go with it. And for sharing your insights a little bit around your own kind of values and personal branding. And it's very insightful to hear. We're all going to be looking in our local shops now for Artic Stone ice cream. So you might just give a quick shout out. Where can we find it?
At the moment, you can find us in all the base pizzas and Bombay pantries. We're working with Butler's pantries, Dunn stores now over the next few weeks. So if you follow us on social media, you'll see where we pop up. We could be in a local artisan food shop beside your gaff, in Clontarf, wherever. So, so.
Brilliant. That's great. That's super. So thank you all. Sarah has popped a evaluation form students into the chat box. So if you have a few minutes just to give us some feedback, it helps us to formulate topics for our next alumni panel. So for anyone interested, our next panel is next Wednesday, same time at 3 o'clock, and we'll be looking at careers with social impact. Okay, so have a great afternoon, and Sheena and Caolan, thank you very much for joining us, and continued success to you both in your careers.
Thanks, Emil, guys. Really appreciate it. Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks very much.
Being here.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.